6 months ago, I did something so unbelievable, it changed my life. I went on a 30-day fast, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Free to think, free from judgment, free to focus, and free from this busy, noisy, information-hungry world. 6 months ago, I did my very own social media fast. That's right, I logged off. You see, I only intended to fast for 30 days because I realized I was so far immersed in the social world, I felt like I was losing myself. But suddenly, 30 days turned into 60 days. And 60 days turned into 6 months. 6 months social media free, and I felt like I recovered from something that was heavily influencing my creativity and my intelligence in a way that I didn't like. I felt like I was in my own world, and I loved it. You see that smile right there? That's what I felt like. But I learned something in these last 6 months. I realized that social media is one of the biggest threats to the brain. It's a very scary thought, but social media has programmed us to think less, to focus less, and to question less. Now, let me be clear. I am not anti-social media. As a marketer, a social media consultant, and research student, I've benefited firsthand from being on social media. I've met business partners that began as simply a Facebook connect. I've profited from being simply social media savvy, helping business owners position their online brands to attract target audiences. And I study behavioral effects of social media as the thesis of my research. So again, I'm not anti-social media, but I am conscious of the dangers of social media consumption. And I use this word consumption, it's an economic term to describe our social media use, because we are literally feeding our minds ideas, thoughts, content, emotions as we scroll up and down our timelines. And we do it so frequently that these ideas, thoughts, emotions, content become a habit. It takes 21 days to make a habit. So after 21 days, this habit of constantly being on social media becomes a pattern of our character, deeply ingrained in our lives. I'm a research student at my college, and while experiencing my social media fast, I decided to change the topic of my research to focus on social media effects. I was curious to know, what are the tangible effects, the difference makers of social media consumption? And I was interested in 3 variables: academic performance, income levels, and self-confidence or self-image. So in other words, I wanted to know, is there a relationship between time spent on social media and grade point averages? Do students who spend more or less time on social media earn better grades? What about income? Do people who spend more or less time on social media earn higher wages or higher salaries? And what about self-confidence? Do people who spend more or less time on social media have a better or worse level of self-confidence? Overall, I wanted to know what difference, if any at all, did social media have on our lives? And when I present my research in April, my hope is to create awareness about social media effects and how we could use social media tools to add value to our lives. Now, there are 7.6 billion with a capital B, people on this planet. And of that 7.6 billion, about 3 billion are social media users. Facebook alone has 2.2 billion monthly active users. And those are active users. That figure doesn't include people like me who take a leave of absence every so often. 500,000, literally 500,000 people join Facebook every single day, which amounts to about 6 new profiles every second. 3, 2, 1. 18 people just joined Facebook in that last 3 seconds. Of the 2.2 billion people on Facebook, about 76% say that they check it daily. By a show of hands, and be honest, how many of us here check Facebook or some form of social media at least once a day? All hands go up, fair enough. Now, the problem with social media is that it's programmed us to behave in ways that are dangerous to our mental well-being. First, social media has created this fake world of perfection. And we've been programmed to curate our lives around this fake sense of perfection. Let me explain what I mean. Anybody here follow a few people on social media whose life just appear to be so perfect? Like, man, so-and-so is always on vacation. It looks like that person's always eating out every time they get on Snapchat. Best grades, beautiful family. Anybody follow a few people like that? Now, what I'm not saying is that that person's online posts or online activities are false or fake. That's not what I'm saying. Because I'll admit, I'm one of those people who have been told, wow, your life looks so great. So that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is we shouldn't judge a person's online life when we don't know their offline life. We don't know their offline reality. Because what happens is we begin to compare ourselves to people's online controlled content. Anybody read a good book here lately or recently? That's like reading a book and comparing your life to a character in a book. Understand that social media is nothing more than a virtual world full of narratives, stories that people tell about their lives and experiences. And the thing is, we want to tell the world all the great and the positive things about us, which is fine. But what we cannot do, or what we should not do, is judge ourselves, criticize ourselves against what we perceive other people's lives to be. That is one of the psychological effects of social media. We've been programmed to constantly play this game of catch up, constantly catching up with the next person, competing with the next person. When what we should do is embrace where we are in our own individual journeys. And believe me, if you're here today, you're exactly where you need to be. Second, social media has taught us to constantly be seeking social validation. Social validation is when you write a post, upload a picture, and then spend about 20 minutes or so rearranging the caption 1,000,000 times just to come up with something that people will like, love, or something people will share. Essentially, something that people would react to, something that people would socially validate. This is big on Instagram. How many Instagram users do we have in the room? So you probably know about the Insta Draft. Well, I call it the Insta Draft. So Instagram is an image sharing site, and the Insta Draft is when you take a bunch of photos, compare them, and then the best one makes the cut. Who's done that before? It's okay, no shame. You take about 30 different selfies that all look just about the same, something like this, or like this. Selfies are fun, right? You'll take about 30 different selfies that all look the same, and your friends will help you narrow down the top 3 or the top 5, and then you'll try on different captions and different filters, and boom, the winning picture and the winning caption makes it to the right, the Insta League, aka your Instagram profile, where all the other perfectly curated images and captions exist. That is ridiculous. Think about how much time that takes. Or think about this. People actually experience identity crisis because of that kind of social pressure. Social validation is when social media users are constantly posting for likes and attention, and they feed their ego with this false sense of confidence. True self-confidence is the only form of validation that we need. And true self-confidence is something that grows on the inside, not online. Lastly, and probably worst of all, social media has programmed us to think less. Or as one researcher put it, we begin to outsource our ability to think. Digest that for a moment, if you will. We've outsourced our ability to think. How is it that our ability to think critically, to rationalize, to create the images we see inside our imaginations, the innate feature that makes us all human, how is that outsourced? And to whom do we outsource? Well, search engines, of course. Business owners are familiar with this term called outsource. It means to obtain a good or service from an outside supplier, especially in place of an internal source. Hint, hint. So in other words, person A pays person B to do a job that person A could do, but it seems, more cost efficient for person B to do the job. Social media has taught us to do that same kind of outsourcing with our brains. Everything is findable on Google, so we think. Instant information is at our fingertips. So instead of gaining knowledge through practical and life experience, we just ask our good friend Google. And in less than a second, Google has an answer. Well, if everything is on Google, then perhaps everything has already been learned, and there's nothing else to be learned. There's nothing else to be learned. Do you see how that pattern of thinking could be dangerous? I call it mindless behavior. The internet has amplified this trend of shifting knowledge from the inside to the outside and taught us new strategies to find information we want to know through search machines. But the truth is, there is something new and exciting to be learned every single day. And not everything could be found on Google. More often, we should look within ourselves for the questions that we seek answers to, rather than outsource that intelligence, that brilliance, to a search machine. So what's the point of it all? It's this. Social media is killing our social capital as a society, one like at a time. But I believe we can reverse those habits on social media, and we can use social media for social good. Believe it or not, my friends, we can use social media to add value to our lives. I'll show you how. First, social media can be used as a tool to self-brand. How many here know that personal branding is important? Personal branding matters. I've landed interviews, internships, and countless career opportunities by being mindful and diligent about my personal brand, online and offline. I tell people all the time, the Amber that you meet online is the same Amber you'll meet offline. Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn are great tools for helping us develop our brands. And when I say brand, I don't mean he say, she say nonsense or hearsay. I mean how you consistently present yourselves or conduct yourselves online. We have to be very cognizant about what our online profiles say about us, as they could open up opportunities for us just as quick as they could close them. So let's make it our business, each of us, to conduct ourselves online in such a way that is consistent with our values and our true character. Another thing, social media is a great tool to help you expand your network. Now, I'm a networking guru, and I'll admit it. Connecting with people outside my immediate circle, exchanging ideas and information, developing relationships, that stuff is fun to me. But that is not to be confused with connecting with strangers online. You see, we must be very selective about who we choose to connect with and who we allow to be connected to us. Because frankly, not everyone has our best interests. Social media can be used as a tool to cultivate relationships with people we actually know. I'll use Facebook as an example. Facebook is a who you know network. My rule of thumb is I like to know 90% of my Facebook network, meaning for every 100 Facebook friends that I have, I know 90. They are not strangers. In the other 10, the expectation is at some point in the near future, we'll connect further. Maybe we'll see each other at an event. Maybe we're planning to attend the same conference. Or maybe we have a number of mutual friends who could provide an introduction. But the point is, we're not aimlessly connected on Facebook, and we're not following one another without a purpose. I'll show you an example of how social media can be used as a tool to self-brand and network together, and how that could yield positive results for everyone. I received this message via Facebook about a week ago from a young lady who I will say is in my age group. A lot of times when we think about networking, we think about networking up. But I'd submit to you today that it's equally important to network across in your peer group with people who are here today. So I received this message on Facebook from a young lady. We don't know each other personally, but we've been connected on social media for some time, and we have a number of mutual friends. She introduced herself, and she said, "Amber, I want to applaud you for all that I see you doing on social media. I want to invite you to be the first feature of the first edition of my online magazine." Wow. Talk about opportunity, right? First of all, shout out to her for using social media for social good, because her online magazine is going to tell the stories of women and girls and inspire people across the globe. But secondly, do you see how we could use our personal brands to attract opportunities to us and connect us with like-minded people? Of everything we've heard here today, there are 3 things that can be taken away to help all of us have better online experiences. First, if you do not have a positive purpose for using social media, then log off. And log off immediately. As a marketer, as a content writer, I'm here to tell you, it's not about the likes. It's not about the number of followers. It's about pure engagement. Real life and real-time engagement. And we should use that same approach in our personal lives. We have to be clear with ourselves and honest about what our real intentions are. So the next time you go to press send on a post, which will inevitably be today, remember this talk and ask yourself, what is my intent? Is it to motivate, to spotlight or bring awareness to bully or harm someone with my words? What really is my intent? Second, learn to like yourself first. You ever hear the phrase, if you live by people's compliments, you'll die by their criticism? It's true. When you actually like who you are and appreciate what you have to offer the world, you won't find yourself seeking social validation online. So learn to like yourself first so that every other like on or offline will just be extra. And lastly, this one is my favorite. Consider cutting back on social media by logging off and logging back into your real life. For every 30 minutes you spend on social media, do something that stimulates your brain. You can read a chapter of a book. How many here know that leaders are readers? CEOs read about 60 books a year, whereas the average person reads just one book a year. They call it Facebook. In those 30 minutes, no shade. You could do so much. You could learn a new skill. You could have a deep offline conversation with someone. Anybody here see Black Panther lately? That movie alone has sparked such great and necessary dialogue. You could read a book. You could learn a new recipe, spend time with a loved one. You could teach a class. You can do so many things. Someone here I was talking to in the audience before I got up here said they took a trip to Africa since they've been off social media. You can do so many things. Do something so profound that it ignites your soul. Ever since I logged off social media and logged back into my personal life, I've been able to reclaim my time like never before. And I know that you can too. Thank you.